Greg, give me a sound check, please.
Sound check.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Blessed is the one who dashes your infants upon the rocks. Doesn't sound quite as good as the other Beatitudes. At least I didn't think so. But really, what do we do with a passage like this? And what do we do with all the imprecatory Psalms? They're violent, rage-filled poems that often make believers feel uncomfortable and unbelievers even more skeptical about the Bible. One time I posted a quote by Martin Luther that said, if you took Jesus out of the Bible, you'd have nothing left. To which my great-grandmother sent me a private message and said, actually, if you took everything out but Jesus, you would have a very beautiful way to live. And even though I rolled my eyes at that comment, it's chapters like Psalm 137 that I think she could point to and say, yeah, see, if you got rid of all that violent, nasty stuff, the Bible would actually look pretty good. If I were to go out and ask the average Christian how they felt about Psalm 137, most probably wouldn't even know it was in the Bible, and those that did, or once they heard about it, they probably wouldn't know what to do with it. I also think that a lot of people look at the imprecatory Psalms as songs calling for justice. And maybe that's so. Some of them might be calling for justice, but I don't think that's what Psalm 137 is about. See, when I think about justice, I think about a wrong being committed against someone who's innocent. And if you look at the context of this passage, that's just not what's going on. Israel, they've just been taken captive by Babylon. And really justice is being exacted on them because they've gotten there due to their sin and rebellion against God. Now, God did punish the other nations for going too hard on them, but nevertheless, they're here because they sinned against God. So no, I don't think Psalm 137 is about justice. I actually think that might be sugarcoating it just a little too much. I really think Psalm 137 is just about being angry. I think the psalmist is singing a song about anger. Which is why my DT is really simple today, and that's this. Getting angry is okay. Paul makes it clear when he says, be angry and do not sin, and I think Psalm 137 shows us how we can do just that. I love finding illustrations that bring the Bible to life. I know illustrations are supposed to kind of do that anyway, but a lot of illustrations are similes or help understand ideas, but some you just pop out to you. You stumble upon them and you go, wow, that makes sense now. And I love finding them in the secular world as well, especially movies, books, that kind of deal, because it shows us that even in the secular world, they understand biblical concepts, even if they don't realize it. And an illustration I found that I thought fit Psalm 137 perfectly was in the movie Spider-Man 3. Now, some of you probably remember this from the original trilogy. I know it was the worst movie in the series. If you don't think so, you should probably see some better movies. But there's this part in the movie where we meet this new character named Eddie Brock. And Eddie, he's new to Peter Parker's newspaper. And of course, Peter Parker's going through a weird identity crisis thanks to an evil alien goo. And every time they encounter each other, Peter Parker's just really mean to Eddie Brock. And throughout the whole movie, they just have really bad encounters, and it finally builds up, and Peter Parker catches Eddie making up news stories. So instead of handling it privately, he calls him out in public and embarrasses him, causes Eddie to lose his job. Later in the same day, Peter ends up stealing Eddie Brock's girlfriend. And so this anger and resentment, it all builds up throughout the film, and it all leads to one climactic scene where Eddie Brock goes into a church, and he looks up to the crucifix, and he says this line. He says, God, I want you to kill Peter Parker. And I remember being in middle school, and I watched that, and I thought, that's dumb. Why would anyone ask God to kill anybody? That doesn't make any sense at all. But why would you ask God to dash someone's infants upon the rocks, too? See, the older I get, I realize that there's situations where people hurt us. But that's all we can do is just curse them. Because we become so angry. Just like in Spider-Man 3, as the anger and resentment builds up into this ultimate climax, Psalm 137 follows a similar pattern. The frustration and everything builds up. In 9 short verses, we go from calm and despair to just fury and rage. Read along with me. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked for us, our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, "Sing to us one of songs of Zion." How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried, tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you've done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. It's a song about anger. And there's a pattern in Psalm 137 that I think we can follow in this process that eventually all of us are going to go through if we haven't gone through already. And that's someone's going to hurt us so badly that we're just going to go off. The first step in this pattern is found in verses 1 through 3. Let me reread that again. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." This first step I call it beaten. We will be beaten. We're blessed to live in a country where we don't really experience persecution, but let's be honest, that doesn't mean life doesn't get really hard sometimes. Sometimes our spirits get crushed. I don't know what it looks like in your life. Maybe it's a drunk driver killed your brother. Maybe it's somebody attacked your sister. Maybe your parents walked out the door. I don't know. But we're going to be beaten. And sometimes we're just going to have to sit down and cry by the river because we're not going to know what to do anymore. We're going to have to hang up our musical instruments. We're just going to despair. But every Christian and non-Christian knows, though, that unfortunately, sometimes life doesn't stop there. When we're down, it likes to kick us. That leads us to the second part of this chapter. That's verses 4 through 6. How can we sing the song of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. If I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. We will be broken. The psalmist here speaks of his hands and his tongue sticking to the roof of his mouth. His body literally breaks as he's in a position to never even sing songs again for the Lord. To talk about Jerusalem in the same way, that's where we're going to find ourselves. We're going to find ourselves beaten and finally broken. Just last week, I had kind of a rough week at church. And it wasn't our last, but amid the frustration and the chaos and everything else going on in life, I probably had the lowest point in ministry yet. And for a moment, I looked around and I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe it's time to call it quits right here, right now, because I just can't do this anymore. I'm sure some of you have felt this way, maybe in life, maybe in ministry. I don't know. I hope you don't get to that point. But it's hard. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, some of you have probably felt it. Sometimes it just feels like you're like laying on the ground trying to stand up and someone's just taking a giant baseball bat, just like hitting you over and over and over again. You just want to get up, but you can't. It's because we're going to be broken. Which leads us to the last part of this psalm in 7 through 9. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried, tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you've done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. The last part is this: we're just going to get angry. Now, I know we're preachers here, so all my points have to be succinct. They have to be parallel with each other. So I looked up synonyms for getting angry, and the best I could find was this: we are going to blow up. We're going to be beaten, we're going to be broken, and we're going to blow up. We're just going to lose it. When I was in 6th grade, I went to a really small school, and I got picked on and bullied a lot because not only was I the smallest kid, I was the shortest, but I was also the scrawniest kid, which gave them a lot of opportunity to mess with me. And they used to do this thing where they'd say, "Hey Greg, we'll give you a free shot." And they'd let me punch him as hard as I could, and then they'd just laugh. So one day this kid came up to me and he said, "Come on Greg, take a free shot." So I went up and I punched him in the stomach as hard as I could. And he just laughed. Him and all of his friends just laughing at me, and I started walking away. And I turned around and I said, "Actually, can I have one more? Can I have one more free shot?" And he said, "Yeah, sure. Come on, bring it on." And I walked right up and I punched him square in the face as hard as I could. They weren't laughing anymore. We're going to be beaten and broken so much with absolutely nothing left that we're going to find ourselves on our knees, and we're just going to look up and we're going to say, "God, I want you to do something. I want you to hurt them like you hurt me. Please, just do something." And Psalm 137 says that's exactly what we're meant to do. We're not meant to turn around and punch them right back. No, in those cases when we've been hurt so bad, when the drunk driver only gets a month in the hole while you're still mourning your parents' death, that's when we have to hand God the weapon and say, "Here, you do something." Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. But I know at that moment for us, that's where the healing starts. Many years ago, a friend of mine was going through a lot of issues in her life. And she was getting frustrated and angry and upset, and she sent me a message, and she said, "Greg, I'm just really mad. In fact, I'm kind of mad at God right now." And in my self-righteous high school way, I said, "Well, that's weird. I don't think I've ever been mad at God. And honestly, I don't think I ever will be." Because, one, God didn't cause my problems, and two, He's the only person that can help me right now. So why would I get mad at Him? And she said, "I hope that's not how it works." Because she said, if God's supposed to be a father to me, I should be able to share my feelings with Him no matter what. And that includes getting angry. She was right. Because God is our Father, we can share our feelings with Him. Psalm 137 shows us that when we're beaten, broken, and we finally just blow up and we don't know what to do anymore, we can look at God and we can say, "Just do something, please. Please." So go ahead and be angry. It's okay.